Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, replaying a single conversation in your mind over and over, as if discovering the perfect version might finally let you sleep? You stare at the ceiling, exhausted, your body begging for rest, yet your thoughts pull you deeper into their maze. You rehearse, correct, and reimagine what you should have said or done, believing it could have changed everything. It feels like you're in control, like your thoughts are protecting you from something unseen, but deep down, it isn't safety you feel. It's suffocation. Overthinking starts quietly, like a faint murmur at the back of your mind. Before long, it grows louder, a crashing wave that pulls you under and refuses to let go. Every thought circles back, looping tighter and tighter until what once felt like helpful reflection turns into a mental trap. You may even mistake this cycle for intelligence and endless pursuit of understanding, a refusal to stop until you're certain. But the more you chase clarity, the more it slips away, leaving you drained, as though the very air has been taken from your lungs. You might recall when it first began, sitting at your desk in school, replaying a teacher's words, wondering if you'd made a mistake by speaking up, or walking home after an argument with a friend, dissecting every line to see if the fault was yours. Back then, these mental loops seemed harmless, even useful, but as you grew older, they evolved into something heavier, a cage built from your own thoughts. Psychologists call this rumination, the compulsion to circle endlessly around your worries, replaying the past and forecasting the future, as if repetition alone could rewrite reality. Neuroscientists explain that overthinking activates the brain's default mode network, the area that takes over when your mind isn't focused. It generates a swirl of memories, imagination, and fear, blurring the line between reality and possibility. Your brain believes it's preparing you for what's ahead, but in truth, it's trapping you in a loop of unsolvable shadows. Still, you hesitate to let go, because overthinking feels safer than silence. Silence demands trust. Silence means surrender. Silence requires stepping into the unknown without the shield of endless mental rehearsals. So you keep analyzing, keep sinking, convinced that one more thought might finally set you free. Yet deep down, you know the reality. Overthinking doesn't protect it. Paralyzes. It becomes a creature that feeds on your focus, growing stronger each time you give in. Another sleepless night, another anxious scenario, another imagined disaster. And if you listen closely, you might hear it whisper the most haunting question of all: what if you never escape? But even within this darkness, there is a path forward. To understand where this endless mental storm began, you must look back to its roots, not in adulthood, but far earlier, when you were still a child. That was when you quietly learned that safety meant thinking harder, longer, deeper. Have you ever noticed how some children seem older than their age, their eyes carrying a quiet alertness, as if they're always bracing for something to go wrong? You might not have recognized it then, but this is when the seed of overthinking is first planted. Not later in life, but in the fragile soil of childhood, when the mind is soft and still searching for safety. Picture a small child lying in bed at night. The house is silent, but every creak of the floor makes their heart race. They stare at the ceiling, replaying the day. Did they say something wrong? Did they upset someone? Should they have stayed quiet instead? What starts as simple curiosity slowly transforms into a way of surviving. If they can predict what happens next, if they can interpret every subtle change in tone or expression, maybe they can avoid unexpected anger or disappointment. The child learns early that the world is uncertain, and their only defense becomes constant thinking. Psychologists refer to this as hypervigilance, a state in which the nervous system stays on high alert, scanning for danger even in calm moments. According to attachment theory, when caregivers are inconsistent, sometimes affectionate, sometimes distant, sometimes critical, the child's mind works overtime to predict which version of love they'll receive next. Thought becomes armor, rehearsal feels like safety, reflection turns into fixation. This isn't a conscious choice. It forms naturally, shaping how the child views the world long before they even understand the concept of psychology. The child who couldn't stop analyzing grows into someone who can't stop apologizing, striving for perfection, or worrying about what tomorrow might bring. With each passing year, the habit takes deeper root. In its early form, overthinking isn't a fluke, a survival mechanism, an attempt to create certainty in a world that feels unpredictable. But the tragedy is that a child's mind, no matter how clever, can't solve the chaos of an unstable home. So they carry this unsolved puzzle into adolescence, and then into adulthood, still trying to control things that were never theirs to fix. You begin to understand that the overthinking mind isn't something you reborn with, something built from moments where safety depended on behavior, where love had to be earned, where silence felt unsafe. Built in the shadows of homes where emotions weren't explained, only endured. Built in the imagination of a child who believed that thinking harder might somehow make the world gentler. But what starts as a shield for a child becomes a mask for an adult. You no longer just study your parents' moods, you analyze everyone's. The same reflex follows you into relationships, friendships, and work, as if everyone is a potential threat to decode. Slowly, the child who couldn't stop thinking becomes the adult who can stop pretending to be in control. People often mistake your overthinking for intelligence. They praise your attention to detail and your ability to foresee every outcome, never realizing that beneath the calm surface, you're drained from carrying the weight of countless imagined futures. What they interpret as wisdom is often just a mask polished with the illusion of control, while behind it your mind is overwhelmed. The child who once lay awake interpreting every sound in the house becomes the adult who reads too deeply into every pause in a conversation. At work, you rewrite the same email 10 times, afraid that one misplaced word could ruin your reputation. In relationships, you analyze every glance, every delay, every silence, searching for hidden meaning. You tell yourself it's preparation, responsibility, caution, but in truth, you're burdened by invisible weight, dragging it through every part of your life. This mask of control acts as both protection and confinement. On the outside, you seem calm, thoughtful, reliable, the friend who remembers everything, the partner who plans ahead, the colleague who always anticipates problems. But inside, you're constantly running on empty, fueling an endless loop of possibilities and imagined mistakes. Overthinking doesn't protect you, it removes you from the present, trapping you in futures that never come and pasts you can't change. Neuroscientists call this the illusion of certainty. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles planning, keeps overworking, convinced that one more calculation will eliminate risk. Yet research shows the opposite. The more you dwell, the more anxious you feel, as if your mind is building scaffolding around a house that was never in danger. From the outside, it looks strong and precise, but inside, you can hardly breathe. And so you keep smiling through the mask, hoping no one notices the truth that every decision feels like a tightrope walk, every choice shadowed by the fear of what might go wrong. You don't fear mistakes because they're catastrophic, but because your mind has been trained to make them feel that way. Overthinking is often mistaken for diligence, but in reality, it becomes a form of self-sabotage. It strips away your spontaneity, your ability to trust, and your comfort in simply being yourself. The mask of control might protect you from judgment, but it also limits your freedom. You can wear it only for so long before the cracks begin to show. And when they do, you face a harsh truth: you haven't truly been living, only rehearsing. To understand how deeply this pattern runs, we must look beyond behavior and into the brain itself, the system that keeps you trapped in endless loops, mistaking thought for safety when it's actually the very chain that binds you. Why does the mind feel like both your greatest ally and your harshest captor? How can the same brain that creates art and solves problems also trap you in spirals of fear and regret? The explanation lies not in weakness, but in biology, the natural wiring of your nervous system. It evolved to protect you, yet now it keeps you cycling through thoughts you can't escape. Cognitive psychology calls this rumination, the tendency to replay the same problem over and over without finding resolution. You convince yourself that you're analyzing, preparing, seeking clarity, but in truth, you're stuck in a feedback loop. Neuroscience helps explain why. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for planning and decision-making, becomes hyperactive. Like a machine that's lost its off switch, it keeps generating scenarios, alternatives, and what-ifs, as if one more thought might finally bring peace. But instead of clarity, it leaves you drained. Meanwhile, the amygdala, your brain's fear center, quietly signals danger, even when none exists. It activates your survival instincts, making a simple disagreement feel urgent or a delayed text feel like rejection. The result? The future becomes a landscape of imagined disasters. Your body reacts as if these fears were real, your heart races, your muscles tense, your mind refuses to rest. The nervous system doesn't distinguish between imagined threats and real ones, so it floods you with stress, keeping you trapped in a constant state of alertness. Another part of the brain, the default mode network, adds to this mental weight. It activates when your mind drifts, pulling you into memories or imagined futures, weaving stories about who you are and what could happen. This network is essential for self-reflection, but in an overthinking mind, it becomes a maze of distorted reflections, looping endlessly with no way out. And so the cycle strengthens, thought fuels fear, and fear fuels thought. Before long, you're no longer responding to reality itself, but to the stories your brain invents about it. Research is clear: overthinking doesn't solve problems, it amplifies them. Yet knowing this rarely stops the process, because your mind insists that safety lies just one more thought away. It's unsettling to realize that your suffering isn't random, it's structured and deeply wired into the very system designed to protect you. The brain meant to ensure your safety becomes the very cage that confines you. Science can explain this mechanism, but it cannot ease the personal weight, the loneliness of feeling trapped in your own head, the fear of never finding peace. To grasp this fully, you must face what happens when thinking turns against you, when the loop deepens and begins consuming not just your calm but your sense of self. Have you noticed how the thoughts you believe will save you often become the ones that destroy you? Overthinking disguises itself as wisdom, whispering that if you analyze just a little longer, you'll find the answer that makes everything safe. But what it actually gives you is paralysis. The search for safety becomes suffering. The mind that once guided you transforms into the very force that drains you. It begins quietly. You tell yourself you're being careful, taking a little extra time to decide, replaying conversations to avoid mistakes, or imagining outcomes so you won't be caught off guard. But soon, that carefulness becomes quicksand. The harder you fight for clarity, the deeper you sink. What once felt like seeking understanding becomes endless fog, filled with more questions, doubts, and uncertainty. You're not safer, you're simply trapped by the very thoughts that promised to free you. The cost isn't theoretical, it's lived in moments that slip away, the opportunity you didn't take because you imagined every way it could fail, the relationship you strained by overanalyzing every word, the night lost rehearsing tomorrow instead of resting for it. Overthinking doesn't protect your life, it steals it. Psychologists call this analysis paralysis, the point where thinking replaces action. You wait for certainty that will never come. Neuroscience confirms that absolute certainty is something the brain cannot provide. The more you chase it, the more your amygdala fires, keeping your body trapped in fear. Like a hall of mirrors, every reflection distorts reality. Each attempt at control only multiplies confusion, and in the pursuit of perfect safety, you lose the simple freedom to live. The more you stare, the less certain you become of what is real. There's a quiet irony in this. Overthinking makes you turn against yourself. You betray the child who once dreamed without fear, because now every dream is analyzed until it feels impossible. You betray the adult you could become, because your mind lives in futures that never come. You betray the present, too, because you're too busy fighting the shadows in your head to notice life happening right in front of you. And the hardest part is no one else can see it. To the outside world, you seem careful, thoughtful, maybe even wise. But inside, you're screaming, desperate to escape the loop you've built. Then comes the realization, your greatest enemy isn't the world outside, but the prison inside your own mind. Yet the tragedy of overthinking extends beyond the individual, it's amplified by the culture surrounding us. A world that praises the restless thinker, a society that mistakes constant noise for intelligence, reinforcing the very chains you want to break. Think about it, how society quietly celebrates the anxious mind. The one who never stops thinking is seen as diligent, responsible, admirable. From childhood, we retold the sleepless student who studies until dawn is more deserving than the one who rests. The worker who never leaves the office is seen as more committed than the one who values balance. The person who worries over every detail is praised for caring more. In this way, overthinking is sanctified, disguised not as suffering, but as virtue. You grew up in classrooms that demanded endless preparation, where every mistake felt catastrophic because perfection was rewarded and hesitation was punished. Later, you entered workplaces that praised those who double-check, triple-check, and stay long after others leave, minds still spinning with what-ifs. The culture of productivity feeds this loop, convincing you that mental noise equals intelligence. But behind the applause lies a quieter truth: what's glorified isn't wisdom, but anxiety. Social psychology shows how societies condition people to associate worry with responsibility. The smart warrior becomes an archetype, someone unable to rest because they supposedly care more. Yet neuroscience reveals the opposite. Constant looping damages clarity and decision-making. Society mistakes chaos for brilliance, when stillness is where true clarity lives. But stillness has become suspect. Pause too long, and you risk being called lazy. Act with confidence, and you're deemed reckless. We've been trained to see silence as weakness and overthinking as proof of worth. Without noticing, You start to believe your inability to rest is something to be proud of. You wear your exhaustion like a badge, thinking it shows dedication. This conditioning doesn't only shape individuals, it shapes entire civilizations. A culture that worships busy minds creates people who are always connected but rarely present, endlessly productive but never at peace. The cage isn't just in your head. It's built collectively in classrooms, offices, families, and systems that reward constant striving while quietly ignoring the suffering it causes. And so you sit at your desk or lie awake at night, wondering why the harder you think, the emptier you feel. You've inherited not only your own mental loops, but those of a culture that values humans only when they're in motion. But when the applause fades, you're left with the truth. Noise isn't wisdom, and busyness isn't depth. It's in the silence that follows where you start to feel the true cost, the emotional toll that years of overthinking carve into your body, mind, and soul. Have you ever felt the weight of your thoughts pressing against your chest, each one like a stone making it harder to breathe? Overthinking doesn't stay in the mind. It spreads through your body, your relationships, your sense of time. What starts as reflection slowly turns into heaviness, a cycle that drains color from your days. At night, you lie awake, your body begging for rest while your mind refuses. The moment you close your eyes, the loop resumes, every argument replayed, every mistake dissected, every future rehearsed until morning. You wake already tired. Insomnia becomes your quiet companion, reminding you of everything you can't let go of. In daylight, the toll deepens. Anxiety eats at your stomach. Depression drapes itself like a heavy cloak. Even simple tasks feel monumental because you carry invisible weight wherever you go. You show up for your partner, but they can sense you're far away. You sit across from friends, nodding and smiling, but part of you is locked behind thoughts they cannot reach. Loneliness doesn't always come from being alone, it comes from being trapped inside your own mind. Psychologists have long noted how overthinking weakens presence. Your energy is drained by endless what-ifs and if-onlys. Neuroscience shows chronic overthinking floods the body with cortisol, corroding mood and health until you're left fatigued, irritable, distant. Over time, it carves away not just peace of mind, but your capacity to truly live. The greatest cost of overthinking is time lost to moments you never lived. Joy replaced by caution, love overshadowed by worry. It steals sleep, peace, and years of your life. Yet you cling to it because the loop feels safe, familiar. But deep down, you know the truth. The weight isn't armor, it's chains. And somewhere within, a quiet voice wonders if you could ever set it down. That's where change begins, with the thought that maybe there's another way. A path that doesn't demand you silence your mind, but invites you to loosen your grip on it. Imagine setting down the heavy bag you've carried for years, filled with doubts, mistakes, and imagined disasters. You don't realize how much it weighed you down until you picture yourself without it, lighter, freer, breathing easily again. Letting go of thought doesn't mean silencing it. It means shifting your relationship with it. You learn that you're not the storm, but the sky it passes through. It starts with presence. Mindfulness isn't just a trend, it's a rewiring of how you meet yourself. Picture sitting quietly, your thoughts still moving, but instead of fighting them, you let them drift like leaves on water. Neuroscience shows that observing thoughts without judgment calms the amygdala and lowers cortisol. The monster of overthinking starves when you stop feeding it with resistance. Boundaries, too, become essential. You learn to tell your mind, not now. You guard your mental space as you would your home. When overthinking knocks with its suitcase of worries, you acknowledge it, but don't let it in. Psychologists call this cognitive diffusion, seeing thoughts as just thoughts, not commands. And then, your relationship with uncertainty begins to shift. Overthinking thrives on the illusion that enough thinking can erase all risk. But life never promises certainty. Peace isn't found in control, it's found in surrender. You start to trust that not every silence means rejection. Not every mistake means disaster. Not every unknown is a threat. Healing isn't about stopping thought, it's about having the courage to move forward without solving everything first. Slowly, things begin to change. You notice it in small ways: the deeper breath before speaking, the quiet joy in walking without analyzing, the ability to sit with someone and be there. That's what letting go feels like: not erasing your thoughts, but no longer being ruled by them. Your thoughts are not you, they're weather, and when you stop clutching at every storm, you discover the vast sky behind them, steady, infinite, unbroken. Yet even that awareness raises a deeper question: what does it mean to live beyond thought? To find meaning not in control, but in acceptance. Your mind, for all its brilliance, was never meant to be your master. It whispers, argues, and storms inside you, convincing you that its noise keeps you safe. But beneath it lies something deeper, something wordless, yet vast, the quiet truth that you are more than your thinking. Think of the ocean. Waves rise and fall, some soft, some fierce, demanding your attention as if they define the sea. But the ocean is not its waves. Beneath the surface lies depth, dark, steady, endless. Your mind is the same. The thoughts that crash inside you are surface ripples. Beneath them is stillness, the same stillness that has carried you through every storm. Ancient philosophers like Marcus Aurelius called this the inner citadel, a place untouched by chaos. Eastern traditions describe the self as the sky, and thoughts as passing clouds. Modern psychology and neuroscience now echo this truth. Awareness beyond thought brings balance and calm. This is liberation, realizing you are the witness, not the storm. When you fight the waves, you drown. When you try to silence them, they roar louder. But when you float, when you allow thoughts to come and go, you see, the ocean was never your enemy. It was carrying you all along. You remember the sleepless nights, the missed moments, the fears, and realize they weren't weakness, but your attempt to stay safe in an uncertain world. Overthinking was control and disguise. But freedom doesn't come from control, it comes from trust. And so you stand now at the edge of your mind's ocean, unafraid of the tide. Thought is no longer your ruler, but your tool, a compass to guide, not imprison. And as you breathe into this awareness, something within you softens. You're not drowning anymore. You're floating. The waves continue, but they no longer own you. You see them for what they are. Movements on the surface of something vast, calm, and ancient. Something that has been carrying you, always, toward the horizon of your own becoming.